Well, good morning. Thanks for joining me on this Tuesday. I'm gonna bounce off of what Michael did yesterday. We're gonna kind of stay on the same topic and the same theme, but that's what we see today in our reading in First Samuel. So I'm gonna jump straight into that First Samuel chapter. Wow, excuse me. First Samuel 30 verses 1 through 6. So let's go ahead and read those 31 through 6. Now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had made a raid against the Negeb and against Ziklag. They had overcome Ziklag and burned it with fire and taken captive the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed no one, but carried them off and went their way. And when David and his men came to the city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep. David's two wives also had been taken captive, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail the widow of Nabal of Carmel. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because all the people were bitter in soul, each for his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in the Lord his God. All right, so let's picture this scene. David and his men have been out. They had fled to the Philistines and been there a while. And then the Philistines were nervous about them being there, so they rejected using their help and so sent them on their way. And so now they come back to their hometown only to find that the Amalekites had raided it and burned their homes and taken their wives and children. And so I think if we put ourselves in their shoes, we can imagine this to be a pretty distraughting situation. We would not be happy. If you've been gone from your family and you come home to find it burned and your children and your wife gone, that would be very upsetting. I mean, it tells us that they wept until they could weep no more. You know, the phrase today is ugly cry, right? They're just bawling until they could cry no more. They're just out of tears, and then David's distressed, right? People are talking about stoning him. And then we see David, of course, turn to the Lord. And so we kind of see two different compare and contrast things here. The people shook up over losing their wives and their children, and they want to blame David, right? They want to blame David for their problems. It's his fault. And so they talk about stoning him. And it says they were bitter in the soul. They were bitter in the soul. But David, on the other hand, obviously feeling the same thing. His wives are gone. And we don't know if he has children. Doesn't say anything yet about that. But his home has been destroyed as well. And what does David do? David strengthens himself in the Lord his God. And we really have the same choice today as well in our own lives, that we can choose to blame others and allow things to make us bitter, or we can choose to find strength in the Lord our God. And so that's the challenge and encouragement today, is that we would make the same choice that David made, because we can blame others. We're going through a challenge right now with the coronavirus, and we can blame our government, or we can blame the choices our governor is making about keeping us more locked down than we would like, or we can blame the virus that we have to be home and can't see people. You know, there's lots of people we can blame, or lots of scenarios, or lots of those who aren't wearing masks, those who are wearing masks, the doctor. I don't know. There's just seems like a lot of people that we could find reasons to blame. You know, some of the doctors are saying this is really bad, and others are saying we don't have any work. So you're just finding all ends of the spectrum, right? And so any of us who are not turning to the Lord could find any reason to really blame anyone if we wanted to, or anything, depending on where our feelings and where our heart's at and what we think about this situation. And yet, if we choose to take that route, we're going to find ourselves bitter of the soul, and it just eats away at our hearts and ruins us. Or we can find our strength in the Lord our God. And that's what Michael talked about yesterday. Remember, he read in Psalm 56, he read from David, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." David continually in his life puts his strength and trust in the Lord. Check out these verses. Let's read a bunch of them real quick. Psalm 9, verse 10. "And those who know your name put their trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. Psalm 13:5. But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. Psalm 27. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Well, I mean, we could rewrite that. Some trust in doctors and some trust in presidents and some trust in themselves, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Psalm 25, 1 and 2. To you, O Lord, I lift up my soul. O my God, in you I trust. Let me not be put to shame. Let not my enemies exult over me. Psalm 33, 20 through 21. Our soul waits for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. For our heart is glad in him because we trust in his holy name. Those are powerful verses for this time. Our soul waits for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. And in Psalm 143, 8. Let me hear in the morning of your steadfast love, for in you I trust. Make me know the way I should go, for to you I lift up my soul. Yeah, for to you I lift up my soul. Again, powerful words of ways that we should be continuing to follow the Lord. And then, I mean, these were all about trust, but look at what David says in Psalm 51 as well. After he was approached by Nathan the prophet about his sin with Bathsheba, listen to his heart here. 51, 10 through 12. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with a willing spirit. So even in that, even in his sin and his adultery and the loss of his child, he then comes back to the Lord. He knows where to find his strength. Create in me a clean heart. Take not your spirit from me, God. I know you're the power in my life. And so that's my hope and prayer for us today, is that whatever you're battling, whatever you're facing, whatever you feel about the virus, as this continues to isolate us in a lot of ways, may your trust be in the Lord. May you be strengthened by the Lord himself today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. God bless.